Osei.
Swear by Almighty God.
Swear by Almighty God.
That the evidence I shall give before this committee.
That the evidence I shall give before this committee.
Touching the matter in issue.
Touching the matter in issue.
Shall be the truth.
Shall be the truth.
The whole truth.
The whole truth.
And nothing but the truth.
And nothing but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Honorable Dr. Akoto Osei, on behalf of this committee, I wish to congratulate you on your nomination for the Ministry of Monitoring and Evaluation, otherwise called M&E. As you know, in this house, M&E means something else, and members of Parliament are excited when they hear M&E. So you're welcome. Shall we start with you taking us through your personal profile? The position of Minister of State for Monitoring and Evaluation is quite new on our ministerial portfolios list. Can you explain to this committee what is your brief? What did the President charge you to do in that position?
Let me state that I heard one of our colleagues on TV making a statement that he was embarrassed for me that I had been doing that position. Unfortunately, I didn't want to respond to the colleague, but I want to urge, Mr. Chairman, parliamentarians, when you are not sure of something, you should ask. Mr. Chairman, our President promised Ghanaians he's going to deliver results. Change has come. Change is the agenda. If you are going to go that way, then it cannot be business as usual. I'm sure most of you have copies of the manifesto. Promises. His charge is simple. He wants government to deliver public service in an effective, efficient, and timely manner. Every sector minister must be able to come up from the manifesto with defined indicators that cabinet will accept. Notice I says cabinet. I'm not going to determine that for them. But once they do, my job is to make sure they perform. That's basically the charge. So it will differ from sector to sector. But let me give you an example. My good friend Napo is not here. How do you restore teacher training? How do you achieve that? Is it the Minister of Finance? Is it the Minister of Education? If you ask me, the first spot is the Minister of Education. Why? He must tell us how many trainees we are talking about and how much each is going to cost. Now, that is not trivial, because if, for example, there are 1,000 students and somebody in his ministry gives the Minister of Finance 500, from get-go, we are in trouble. But assuming they do a good job and the data is robust, then it is his responsibility, and I think tomorrow he's going for the budget hearing, to tell the Minister of Finance that this is the amount that needs to be there. If I were the Minister of Finance, I would do my check to make sure it is correct. The charge is by the budget. So by March 7th, 14th, thereabouts, that quantum must be there. But the story doesn't end there. What good is it if it is restored and it's not paid? So maybe 3 months' time, the Minister of Education must tell Cabinet that it's been restored and it's being paid. That's results. It's not enough to say we are restoring it, because we want to see impact, isn't it? So that is where he and I are going to be liaising, coordinating to ensure that. Let me give you another example. Honorable Dambuche's portfolio, I'm told they must have 4 regions by August 2018. Now, that is not trivial. So, if I were the minister, by now, I'll be thinking from August 27th, what must I do to get there, working your way backwards. In this case, it may involve monthly checks. But he is going to determine the inputs, the activities, the outputs, and the outcomes, and the results. I mean, at the end, we must have 4 regions. We know that. So he must understand the legal processes, if there are any. And once he comes up with his KPI for his area, that cabinet accepts. If he says that look, help me out, and I can, I will. Of course, I'm not going to be doing most of the work myself. I intend to have a technical staff to backstop me.
Do you see any conflict between your work and that of the senior minister and also the chief of staff, because they are coordinating and monitoring activities?
I told by the president that the chief of staff will be handling the presidency, not coordinating government machinery. There's a difference. That's what I'm told. Secondly, if I recall, I was listening to the senior minister, and if I can quote him, he will be coordinating the economic sectors. I didn't say I was going to coordinate anybody. I have not said that, so I don't see any conflict at all. Now, let's give an example. Assuming that he's going to coordinate finance ministry, my job is not to coordinate for them. My job is that once we agreed by cabinet that these are the KPIs, then I'm going to monitor them. So he's part of that group. If he's part of finance, he will have to come and report with the finance minister how well they are doing on achieving the revenue target. There's no conflict. I don't know if when we started he was here. The chairman just asked me about the KPIs. Each sector ministry is going to come up with a set of performance indicators in their sector that cabinet will have to approve. I'm not going to determine that for them. Let me go back to the example I use. Finance says that we are going to raise 17.5% of GDP as revenue for the year 2017. That is the indicator. We will agree that every quarter he will come and report on how far he is reaching that goal. Now, of course, it is an average number, so the quarter numbers may change. Assuming that after the first quarter, he has managed to collect only 5%, then we have to sit down and figure out what is happening. Because by the end of the year, we expect 17.5. If at the first quarter you are 5%, there's a problem. He could be at 25%. It is a positive problem, but maybe the diagnosis is wrong. We have the discussion and find out how to make sure that by the end of the year, he can come to the cabinet and say, Mr. President, I achieved 75%. That is what I'm going to be helping the minister do. And this is for each sector. It is prudent, therefore, for the sectors not to come up with too many indicators. But you see, keep in mind, I said time-bound. We have 4 years. Implementation may occur in 3.5. Let me be generous, say 3.5. So some of the work is like yesterday. People must be thinking like, what am I going to do in year 1, in year 2, in year 3? I gave an example of Honorable Damboche. I heard the president say that the regions must be created by August 2018. So Honorable Damboche, I don't envy him. It means that he has to be working almost around the clock to achieve that. There may be legal processes which he doesn't have control over. He must know that. He cannot anticipate Parliament if there's legislation. So it is not simple. In fact, what I see is that it's going to make every minister politically active. You don't just say, please send the number. You must make sure that number they are sending is correct, because you must come to cabinet to take that responsibility, not your public servant.
Departments in various ministries and your title. And I was wondering if it is not akin to internal auditors in every department and the internal audit agency anyway. So my first one, I don't see a problem. And even if there is a problem, it has to be straightened out. And how are you going to make sure that M&E departments really know their role? Because that is all about driving government performance.
First and foremost, I'll be willing to assist the sector ministries to organize their M&E departments. But that is their primary responsibility. I'm not in charge of the ministry. Even the NDPC has a monitoring organ. what I suspect we should be doing, we should be coordinating to make sure that they are all at par. Because see, at the end of the day, the question is not going to arise as to why the M&E Department of Ministry of Education has not performed. The question is, why has the Minister of Education not been able to deliver the results? So I think it will be important to work together to make sure that the M&E departments are with us. And here, I'm sure the NDPC group can help. But I intend to, as it were, have a technical team. And it's a matter of complementarity. And I think a lot of talking among ourselves must happen.
Have you, by any chance, started thinking through the various sectors, the possible KPIs, its internal validity and consistency, so that whenever that meeting is had with the various ministries, departments, agency, NDPC, we could fashion out a really practical KPI?
My primary role is not determining it for them. I think we have to work together. But I can tell you for a fact, I've seen a matrix, not of indicators, but of timelines, coming from the EMT, and I'm a member. Now notice I said of timelines. I am expecting when it is passed on to the sector ministers, they'll use that to begin to set their KPIs. I'm willing and able to assist those who have not started thinking through it. But this is going to be all of us thinking through it. My understanding is that a lot of the economic issues will have to be sifted through the EMT. In fact, tomorrow we have about 4 sector ministers presenting papers. So not everybody is there right now. But I envisage a retreat or retreats to come up with this. And I expect that all of us will participate, but I'm willing to assist people tease out. But some of it, yes, I am beginning to think about. In fact, that's why I use what appears to be the easiest one in your case, restoration of trading allowances. It may be the easiest, but look, somebody could goof. Give us 1,000 names when there are 2,000 names, and then we are in trouble. So even that one, even though it's as simple, then I gave the extreme case of Honorable Dambuche. It's not trivial. So I think once the team is in place, I suspect there will be a retreat where some of these things will be discussed. And I'm aware that the Vice President is getting ready to do some of this.
Chair, my last question. You use the most supposedly easiest trainees, till I got round to looking at the numbers. Just as you said, getting the numbers correct is even a problem. And I'm feeling it. Reading over the weekend, we have to meet quickly. Do you think that in being forthright with Ghanaians, the president is not probably setting us up for easy criticisms?
One, even though we're HIPIC, President John Kufuor called the economic team and said, look, I want to increase wages by 100%. I said, no problem, boss, you are the boss. So we cranked the numbers. Then when he saw them, he put it in his office desk, never to be relooked at. However, it gave birth to singles and the pension reform. So the president is realistic. If he sees the numbers and it's impossible, he will tell us which way forward. Some, I'm clear in my mind, things that should be possible, and he will not take excuses. Some, he may say, a good example. I have not seen the full numbers from the Ministry of Finance on where we are in 2016. But the little I've seen, the numbers don't look good. It may force us to rethink some of the immediate economic objectives.
Thank you, Chairman. Honorable nominee, congratulations. And my first question is, I heard you say that you will be a cabinet minister. Are you saying that if the president decides to have 19 cabinet ministers, as a minister responsible for monitoring and evaluation, you will be counted as one of the 19 cabinet ministers?
If you've worked in the executive before, and I'm sure you have, cabinet position is not predetermined. It is at the discretion of the president. But I can tell you, just last Wednesday, he confirmed that to me. The rest I cannot speak on, but he has confirmed that to me.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, now we have, when the senior minister appeared before us, he said he has a mandate to coordinate the economic ministries. Now, you are also going to be responsible for monitoring and evaluation. We have, and you are a member of the economic management team. We have the Chief of Staff Office. How are you going to collaborate effectively with all these bodies or ministers so that...
Honorable, please, I don't know whether Honorable Obiamwa asked the same question. So can you please ask, yes, and Honorable Hello asked, can you ask another question, please?
This is different. No. This is different. Mr. Chairman, please.
Honorable, you know that if you want to challenge the chairman's ruling, there's a procedure. Can you ask another question, please?
I didn't consider that to be a ruling, actually. Mr. Chairman, I want to find out from the honorable nominee his experience as a former finance minister. How is he going to use that position to make sure we get maximum benefits from his current position that he's going to occupy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman, I think one of the reasons, in my view, that when I had a discussion with the president, made him give me this position is because he referred to my experience at the Ministry of Finance. The advantage of working at finance, if you're a student and a good one, is that you learn to deal with all the ministries. So sometimes you even know more than what is happening in the ministries. That kind of breadth and knowledge can only assist in me doing the monitoring and evaluation. I mean, I don't know, I was in finance for 8 years, long time, and I dealt with every minister. I know the traps, the issues that they deal with all the time, and I've been in Parliament for another 12 years. We've had to deal with all the ministries when it comes to loan. So I've learned I have a bit of advantage to be able to deal with all the sector ministries. I think that's part of the reason that he thought that. And notice earlier I said that he wants government machinery to work. Let me give you an example. Road sector. The biggest problem is not lack of money. The biggest problem is that we give contracts. If you have 200 million given in your budget and you go and give contracts worth 800 million, of course, there will be arrears. So we have to make sure that if we have 200 million, we only give contracts up to 200 million. Then this problem of arrears will not arise. But I know because at the ministry, we always have to deal with it. If you go to the energy sector, one of the biggest problems, we know it's financial, not technical. So I remember when they used to say, oh, if we don't pay for this cargo, they'll be doing so. And this is true for all energy ministries from Kufuor down to now. They scare the president and we panicking. That is the nature of the energy sector. It's big capital, 500 million. And so that knowledge coming from my experience, coming from Ministry of Finance and Parliament, I think can only assist me in assisting my colleagues.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, 2 years ago, the previous government had a program with the IMF. The honorable nominee was heard loudly that the government did not bring the program to Parliament for approval. Now, the MPP government is seeking to review the IMF program. I want to find out from honorable nominee whether after that review, whatever agreements they come to, he will ensure that it is brought to Parliament for approval.
Mr. Chairman, the primary responsibility of bringing laws to Parliament is the Minister of Finance, not the Minister of Monitoring and Evaluation. I am a member of the EMT. The Minister of Finance is likely to come to the EMT to tell us what the proposal is. My advice would be take it to Parliament because it's constitutional.
Your name properly. Congratulations. In previous regimes, we've had monitoring evaluation officers who are hired as presidential staffers. Maybe because sometimes they are presidential staffers, ministers may not be paying attention to their directives and perhaps elevating that role to cabinet ministerial status will provide some level of equality or even some order of precedence that will enable the internal monitoring of the work of ministers in terms of promises to be implemented. So in that light, when you are looking at your KPIs, may I ask, what would be the framework within which you will be determining your KPIs? Is it just your manifesto? Is the constitutional injunctions as to what to do? Are the sustainable development goals that Ghana has acceded to? The commitments to UNESCO regarding children's education and etc. Our commitments to ECOWAS, our commitments to African Union, within what world, global, local, international framework will you be developing your KPIs, and how binding do you consider them to be?
Thank you. First, I was not privy to the non-cabinet status of whoever was in the previous regime. I've heard about Mr. Toniedu being in charge, but I would know the details. Our manifesto has imbibed all these issues you are talking about, so it will follow out of that. You know, the president has been a foreign minister, attorney general. He's currently in the AU. So we have taken all that into consideration. And the sector ministers who will be in charge of the things here presumably understand that. That is how the manifesto was drawn. It was not drawn in a vacuum. So yes, those commitments will inform. But more importantly, the results that we say we are going to achieve is the focus. If not achieving an SDG 20 years from now, we only have 4 years. So the long term is okay, but as Keynes said, in the long run, we'll all be dead.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Honorable nominee, you said that you will look at all of them, and that will determine your key performance indicators and what you'll be delivering on. Now, the Constitution of Ghana, Article 25, and if you are minded to look at it, is very clear on what are the key performance indicators when it comes to education. It considers the 3 tiers, 3 levels: basic education, free, universal, compulsory. Secondary education, it says progressively free. And tertiary education, it also says progressively free. We have the Get Fund Act, which sets aside 2.5% of tax revenue, VAT revenue, to finance. And if you look at Section 2 of the VAT Act, Act 58, I think 1, if you look at the provisions of Section 2, it is clear that the fund is largely meant for supporting tertiary education, even though for policy reasons, some veerment can take place and then other levels can be considered. As somebody implementing the key performance indicators deriving from the Constitution and your manifesto, will I see you enforce the provisions of the Constitution that compel us to work towards progressively free tertiary education in this country?
Chair, before he answers, yes, I'm asking the Chair. The Get Fund Act is not directed to supporting tertiary education. No. I have a copy. We can go through it. It is not. So that is wrong. You can answer the question, but that is not true.
My job is to advise him. Now, if I start going into enforcing the Constitution, I'll be off track. There are people like the Attorney General and the sector ministers who are better placed than I am. So I should not be thinking about how I'm going to help enforce the Constitution. I'm thinking about how the government can deliver public service in an effective, efficient, and timely manner. Somebody else must tell us about the constitutional implications. I want to be very clear. I don't have the expertise to do all of that.
Fund Act 2000, and I don't think it has been amended. I'm asking you, if you remember Section 2 of the Ghana Education Trust Fund Act, it reads, and I quote, "The object of the fund is to provide finance to supplement the provision of education at all levels by the government. 2, for the purposes of attaining this object, the money in the fund are to be used, A, to provide financial support to the agencies and institutions under the Ministry of Education through the ministry for the development and maintenance of essential academic facilities and infrastructure in public educational institutions, particularly in tertiary institutions. Particularly in tertiary institutions." Then B says, "To provide supplementary funding to the Scholarship Secretariat for the grant of scholarships to gifted but needy students for studies in second cycle and accredited tertiary institutions in the country." I can go on and on. Almost every clause of the clause 2, which deals with the object of the fund, places emphasis on tertiary education. Are you going to look at these statutory obligations, both in the Act and in the Constitution, relative to these population segments like students, and ensure that as one of your key performance indicators, that you live up to the promise to the people of Ghana?
Chairman, I don't know if my colleague has been here all along. But let me remind him that I have stated that it is not my primary responsibility to come up with the KPIs. The man is sitting next to you. His job is to take all these into consideration. And by the way, when we come up with the Get Fund formula, it doesn't say that 20%, as you are reading, particularly does not fix the figure. So we come up with a figure, and so it will be up to us to make sure that we are meeting those constitutional obligations as we do all the time. But the primary responsibility is the now sworn-in Minister of Education. That is what he's being hired for. I will work with him, but that's his primary responsibility.
Honorable Kujo, you remember when the negotiation to sell off that bank, when it started?
During our time, we never had any negotiation. In fact, to be factual, there was a problem with the situation of a client, 2 clients. And the governor then, Paul Akwa, was going to close the bank. And we decided that rather than closing the bank, we'll get SNET to recapitalize. So the issue of sale never occurred. The question was, do you collapse it or do you make it run? And then we thought that it was better to recapitalize and have a way for the clients to pay properly. So we did not discuss a sale.
And you don't remember that at the board you discussed anything regarding the RAND groups?
The RAND group, they've been around for a long time. But the major shareholder, there were three. SNIT, SIC, and there's a third one. I can't remember. Yeah, some people were discussing that. We, the board members, never went that route. And of course, at the end of the day, it's a board decision, not a management decision.
Well, Mr. Chairman, because of constraints, let me just move on. When the finance minister came here, there was this question about McKinsey Group trying to help, and they were even in town helping at no cost to even work on your 100 days. You've worked at the Ministry of Finance for long. Do you think that we don't have the technical expertise to be able to handle whatever there is at the Ministry of Finance, and we needed an external hands to help in anything?
I'm not aware of any McKinsey Group, but to the substantive question, when I worked there, I worked with very, very competent people. Minister of Finance has a mandate by the budget time to tell you when. But I can tell you some of the discussion has already occurred at the EMT. I cannot share all the details, but the general consensus is that the budget should reflect the timelines for these policy issues.
Now, in fact, I was asking because you earlier mentioned that you were a member of the economic management team.
Yeah, but I don't speak for them. I don't disclose our internal discussions. We have a chairman called Dr. Baumia.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much.
Chairman, thank you very much. But in doing so, to request him to humbly recognize Dr. Baumia as Vice President of the Republic chairing the EMT.
Thank you very much.
Just one, Dr.
Because we've been close for so long, I forget he's now the Vice President.
Familiarity, they say, breeds contempt. There is a question of 0% financing of the Bank of Ghana. Where do you stand in this, even though Parliament itself took a different position on that matter?
Chairman, 2009, there was no program with IMF. We completed our HIPIC program and chose not to have. We had what we call the Article 4 consultations, which is normal. It's not a program. So we were off. That government that inherited chose to go back on an IMF program. That is their discretion. Two, you know my view on 0% financing. I don't think the law now is 5%. And I'm a legislator. I go by the law, up to 5%. If somebody chooses to go and sign an MOU that says that it's 0, I have a problem. I think my view is known, so I don't need to re-articulate it.
Now, were you not the same gargantuan person between 2008 and when you left office as Minister for Finance? Was it not the case?
Oh, but gargantua. I think when I was Minister of Finance, you could come to my office without worrying, isn't it?
I didn't say you were intimidating. I'm putting your word that you were the gargantuan person who was working.